This is the Pipkin and Turnbull Show. It is October 15th, 2020. This is episode 26. Man, we got so many awesome things to talk to you. Like we talked about last week, it's such a great time in sports because there's so much going on. It's almost
Yeah.
overwhelming. It's like consuming overload type thing, but it's good. Just hopefully like it keeps going. So once again, I've got a baby in
Yeah.
my room. Jamie's got some chihuahuas, so if you're hearing some stuff in the background, you're not going crazy. That's probably what you are hearing. So, with that, what are we going to be talking about today, Mr. Turnbull?
All right. So we have an NBA champion. The Lakers were able to pull it off, and so we're gonna give our reactions to that, and then we're going to kind of review how the bubble went and what the futures for Miami and LA hold. And then we had some NFL unbeaten's lose. The Chiefs and the Bills. So we're gonna take a look at that and then preview their matchup this Monday. And then, as we have this season, we're gonna end today with our best and worst, and then give you guys some matchups that we think you will like for this weekend. So with that, Caleb, what did you think about Game 6, or I mean, honestly, the finals as a whole?
Yeah, I man, it was. I mean it. I mean, I wish it could have. I wish we could have had more of it. I wish we could have had.
Yep.
I wish kind of every game was kind of like that. I think it was game 5 before game 6 where Miami won. It'd been great to kind of see that throughout.
Yeah.
It'd have been great to see full healthy Miami with Adebayo and Dragic playing throughout the whole
Hmm.
series. I would have loved to seen that. But man, I credit Jimmy Butler and the young Heat players. They've got a lot of
Hmm.
great things I think coming their way because of the way that this team is built.
Yeah. I would
It's
agree.
definitely built for the long term. Like I think of the Spurs or the Pistons, especially the Spurs. When you think about Manu, Ginobili, and then you had Tim Duncan. And so I really
Yeah.
do feel like, with that kind of strategy and what was great about those Spurs teams is they also had a great depth at bench. Guys that could come,
Hmm.
like a Duncan Robinson that could just come off the bench and get you crucial threes. So I think Miami is happy, definitely with their direction that they're going in to take a 4-2 series where people just thought that they didn't belong. They definitely proved that. Definitely I think best of the East because they beat the best in the East. No matter what the
Yeah.
circumstances look like. I mean, they still had to go through Milwaukee and Boston, which to me were the best of the East. Which
Yeah.
talent wise, that's what we thought that the Eastern Conference Finals would be. And so
Hmm.
you add a couple pieces. To it, and we can come back to the rebuilding of, or not rebuilding, but how do we add to get us past LA, both
Hmm.
teams in LA, and especially with Golden. I think we've all forgotten, fallen asleep in a sleeping giant that is Golden State, with all the
Yes.
players that are
Yeah.
coming back healthy for them, with some new additions. So Golden State, it's going to be tough to beat. I think this coming
Don't
year.
forget about the Nets.
Yeah, Kevin Durant with and Kyrie. Um, but
Yeah.
and then speaking to, it is incredible. No matter what we think of LeBron, no matter what we think of his legacy, it is incredible and amazing what he's done, going to three different
Hmm.
organizations, and elevating them to a championship. I know
Yeah.
that he
I
had
would agree.
great pieces at each stop, especially in Miami. I would say, to me, still the most impressive win that they had was where they went to Game 7 and won it Game 7 against Golden State. I think that was still his most impressive. What he was able to do with the characters on that team, making sure
Yeah.
that he got them young players to that championship. I think I think what helped LeBron in this run was that he did have a lot of veterans. Usually, we'd see that kind of hindering, I think, a couple teams, but you had a lot of veterans, a lot of guys, knowing that that like getting to the finals isn't a guarantee, and
Yeah.
AD, I think he approached it and handled everything extremely well, because
Mm.
he is just as crucial aspect to the team success, because without AD they didn't make the playoffs last year. I mean,
Yeah.
they have LeBron, and a very similar team, but you add
Mhm.
AD, and this is where you get. So you can't discount, and you can definitely make the case that, looking at the next couple of seasons, you could make the case that AD is. His best teammate is LeBron, Scottie Pippen. I like, I still lean a little bit Dwayne Wade, in that kind of thing. But just I do appreciate 17 championships. What the Lakers did
Mhm.
to get their superstars, to get superstars back in LA. It's incredible what I think the Clippers
Mhm.
and the Lakers did to elevate basketball back in LA. And I think I think it's actually made it a better league. I think we have a better league now than we've
Yeah.
had probably in the past. Honestly, I would say 8 to 5 years. I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Where we have players placed. It's not like overwhelmingly like it's going to be Golden State. It's not overwhelmingly like it's going to be LeBron and the Miami Heat. Like there's a lot of unknowns that we have to basketball, and I think this
Yeah.
also shows you and I think the East is a lot stronger than I think is perceived right now. I think the East
Mhm.
is poised next year, especially seeing what the Nets will do, seeing what Miami will do to rebuild. And so I think the East is a fascinating process and a fascinating side of it, that I'm not. I can never pinpoint to tell you what may happen in the East. But yeah, just kudos to Jimmy Butler, as well. I never would have imagined that. I never thought Jimmy as this kind of player, like this kind of franchise superstar kind of guy. Never
Oh
thought it
yeah.
was going to happen. I questioned the whole Miami, like, getting Jimmy Butler is great, like, but who's going to be your actual superstar? But I mean,
Mhm.
it just shows you the type. If you've got the work ethic, which Jimmy Butler has shown that he has, and the right
Yes.
team and right organization to fight for, like Jimmy is right there among the superstars of the league, and he proved it in this
Yeah.
finals. And yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts. Did you have any other thoughts, Jamie?
I mean, I think now we need to look at where they go from here. And just talking about the Lakers, because Miami, I think they've got a young enough core that they're going to contend for years to come, as long as they can keep it together. Lakers, on the other hand, they do have a lot of vets, and they don't have necessarily a young core like Miami does. So where do they go from here? And that's you got to build this around AD. You got to let. I saw earlier that he's going to opt out of his, I think, $28 million deal, and then he's going to re-sign with the Lakers. So he's obviously going to be there. So now you have to build around him. LeBron's not always going to be there. So, have a plan for that. And that way you can, because AD, I think if you can get the pieces around him, I think you can possibly win 5, 6 more championships with an AD there. But you gotta build it, and don't just be satisfied with this one, championship, because it seems like the Lakers win a championship every like 10 years. And so, don't be satisfied with this and then, all right, well, 2030, here we come. Like, no, keep building, get young pieces, draft well, find young free agents. Like you got to keep going because I think, man, the Lakers can be the team of the West easily, but they have to build around AD. And if they do that correctly, they're. I mean, I don't see Golden State even beating them right now. So, but I mean that's my thoughts on it. I'm just excited for good NBA because for years, like you said, man, for years we weren't. It was really one sided. You know, it was Golden State, then everybody else, and I'm excited that a lot of these teams are emerging with some powerful players and it's competitive again, and that's something that the NBA's lacked for a couple years is competitiveness, and so I really like it. And and as for the bubble, I loved it. I thought that was a great way to keep everybody together. Um, we didn't have any COVID cases while they were in the bubble, at least none that I can remember. It was still competitive. I think everybody likes home court advantage, and you like to hear the crowd cheering at live games and stuff like that. But we live in a different time right now than we did last year, and I thought the bubble was good. I don't see it. I don't think it could work for every team or every league, but I thought the NBA did a great job with the bubble. Just kind of we're in kind of uncharted territory right now, and these sports leagues are trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I think the NBA really hit a home run with bringing everybody together and keeping everybody there in Orlando and made it really work. So, do you have any thoughts on the bubble at all?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you. I'm glad you remember the bubble. I know we know, but I'm glad you. Yeah, no, initially when I wasn't a fan of the bubble, like the whole bubble idea,
Mhm.
because of, I mean, I just didn't ever think like you could get the competition level where you need it to,
Yeah.
like because that's the thing. And we with some of these games, I mean, some of them were like unwatchable. I mean, especially like early
Yeah.
on, like it was real rough. And but as the playoffs especially began, it really just showed you what teams were focused on basketball, like what teams
Yeah.
were able to push everything aside, focus in on this bubble opportunity, and really play some basketball. And so the teams that
Mhm.
were able to do that, like the Nuggets, like the Heats,
Mhm.
they really, I think it propelled their team even more. I don't think without the bubble, and I could be wrong, but I don't think without the bubble, I don't know if the Heat are in the finals, because of just I think just the fans do play the mental game, where you're not
Yeah.
used to your routine. I mean, it really does play a factor. But what these teams were able to do, what the NBA was able to do, you can only congratulate them and be like, this was an incredible thing to do in this time of crisis, and to
Mhm.
actually have an NBA champion. There is no asterisk, like there is no like question mark
No.
on it. You
No.
just saw the it just you had to have a whole different mentality, and the organizations and the players that were able to do that. And it does go back. I mean, you do have, I always think the Heat organizationally are one of the top, if not the top organization as a whole, and I think that does
Yeah.
help you. It does help you have like Eric Spoelstra and a Pat Riley to keep their team focused, and
Yeah.
I think the Nuggets are showing that they have that type of coaching and that type of environment as well, and so yeah, I thought you know to for 3 months to be in the bubble, to be away from they did have family friends come, but I mean that would be. I mean, that would be hard. But the billions of dollars that costs the NBA to put on,
Yeah.
because you're not. I mean, you're not only thinking play. It's not only like players and coaches and refs. I mean, you've got TV crews. You've got the crews at Disney at the bubble. You've got uh, like whole bunch of assist. Like you've got so much that you have to think about for that thing to
Yeah.
actually have happened. How do you entertain? How do you feed? Like there was so much thought, and they got it prepared. I mean, for something that big, they got it prepared really quick. Like they got their
Yeah.
ducks, they got their ducks in a row for something like that. They they are definitely they were the test subjects of how you have a successful bubble, because you're
Do
looking.
you think do you think the NFL could do something like this around playoff time?
I think they're gonna.
Because 32 teams, I don't think they can. But around playoff time, do you think
I
they can do something like
I think
this?
they will. I
You
think
think they
I
will?
think because in order to finish the season, you're gonna have to. I think it's a bummer for
Yeah.
fans, because you couldn't be in attendance, but I
Hmm.
I think they're gonna. I mean, I think they're already talking. I know Major League Baseball's talking about it too, because it's
Hmm.
all about like how do we finish, right?
Yeah.
You know, we love that it's going, but you've got every week with the NFL, NCAA, Major League Baseball. I think is actually starting to quiet down, but NCAA, NFL,
Mm.
it's kind of every week we're getting these COVID cases. And what's
Yeah.
difficult is that the only way to ensure procedures, I think, is within a bubble, because each state has different laws, and that the way that they are looking at like what are we doing, because you look at the Chiefs had fans opening night, opening day, and the
Yeah.
rest of the NFL
Yeah.
waited till week 4. So it's really looking at each state, and
Hmm.
as the organization as a whole, NFL, the only way I think to keep all parties happy the best that you can is possibly look at having a bubble situation,
Hmm.
and in the future. And like
Yeah.
you were saying, I think the playoffs you can do that. I don't know if you can do that a full season. You may be able to,
Mm.
who are, do you get to a point to where you are mathematically eliminated? And once we get to that point,
Yeah.
but you know what I also, this year I think we actually, correct me if I'm wrong, we actually have an extra team that can be. We have the
Yeah.
extra
We'll have
teams
an extra team in the
playoffs, so
playoffs.
that's. I
Yeah,
mean,
for
that makes it a
AFC and
large. I mean,
NFC.
that makes it also harder on this year in particular,
Yeah.
to because you would have had fewer teams in the playoffs, and figuring out
Mm.
what that looks like, um, but yeah, I think depending on what federal mandates, what will happen in the future. I mean, all these leagues have to look at, like, if we get to that point so that we can at least have a champion, how are we going to do a bubble? And I think
Yeah.
college football's got to do the same as well.
Yeah.
How are we going to do bubbles in our league? So, but you're right in
Yep.
saying that you can't do it for full seasons.
No.
So, what I think, I I think what the NFL. I mean, I still would have granted a champion, but I know that we didn't have a preseason, but maybe you even had fewer games too.
Mm.
Besides that, you make sure that you get your two division games in, and then a couple extra,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
just so that we can just have it like somewhat of a season, somewhat of a season to where we can be like, okay, they were champions of this year, and we can get past this and go back to it. But
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of money involved, so the reason that you play
Yes.
games and things like that. But I think the biggest thing is like just getting done with the
Yeah.
season, and I think college football is in the same weird space, with your
Mm.
message that that I haven't even looked up today, but Nick Saban, being tested positive for COVID. So I mean, you're just gonna see more and more of
Yeah.
that. And I think the Gators canceled their game, and so it's just
Yep.
let's get done with the season. And maybe the Big Ten will be like, oh, we're gonna cancel again. That would
Yeah.
be something, man.
Oh my gosh.
It could happen,
No.
man. It could happen. I mean, so but one last thought about COVID and all that, and that'll be our last probably talk. But I think each each organization like the NCAA, I think they should extend the season and allow more bye weeks. I think if you get, and I'm sure there probably is this protocol, if a certain amount of teams have this much in your league, you just have a bye week. You just have a bye week for the
Yeah.
whole NFL. Because I think that would solve a lot of sketch. That's all you can do. Just expect to extend the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
And I would say like five, or because I think we're already at three or something with COVID cases going on, 3 to 4. But like once you hit
Yeah.
maybe like six, you just say we're gonna have a bye week. We're just gonna get everybody healthy. We're that way we don't have fans and all that. Just have more bye weeks. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
and
agree.
that'll help with fantasy too. Have league wide bye weeks, so
Yeah.
that's what's killing me on fantasy. It's like no, it's like let's have league wide bye weeks and or something. So,
Yeah.
but moving on. So with that, we saw a lot of teams go down, or mainly two undefeated that went down this Sunday. And I'm going to let you kick off with that discussion, Jamie.
So the Chiefs and the Bills lost. I mean, the Bills. I'll start there because I have a lot to say about the Chiefs. The Bills, I don't know. They didn't look bad, I guess, but they didn't look good. You can definitely tell the Titans were rested. But they definitely Tennessee definitely just dismantled them, and the Bills are definitely better than how they played. What was it, Tuesday night?
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't think that they're like done, or like that they're not gonna win this season. That they're gonna win. They're gonna do fine. It's just a matter of um you know playing better, playing consistently, not turning the ball over, and just stuff like that. Just it's little things that you can practice and that can be taught better, and little things that can be fixed. And I didn't see anything that the Bills did that couldn't be fixed. I thought they're still one of the top teams in the AFC. I thought they that the Bills looked good in some aspects of the game. Tennessee's still, the Tennessee was one win away from the Super Bowl last year, so a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Tennessee, and they're a top team in the AFC, just like Buffalo. So I think a lot of the stuff that happened to Buffalo, I think, can be fixed in practice, and just kind of fine tuned. So uh, the Chiefs, that I don't. They just looked sluggish. I guess they weren't playing to their level, and I won't even say that they were playing down to the Raiders, because the Raiders are a good football team. Their problem is consistency, and Gruden trusting his team, and he trusted them last Sunday. There was when it was 4th and 1, and they went for it and they got it. Earlier in the season, Gruden would have punted in that situation and gave the ball back. So, it's kind of a matter of, their consistency needs to be key. For the Chiefs, you got to remember who you are, and you got to keep playing at a high level. And I just saw a lot of mistakes that they don't usually make. Um, and I saw a lot of stuff that the Chiefs were doing that just isn't characteristic of them. And that they my just the best thing that I can describe the Chiefs' performance last Sunday was just sluggish. Like I don't know if they were looking ahead to Buffalo this Monday or what, but they definitely weren't 100% in that game. I saw the defense was making mistake after mistake after mistake, blown coverages, missed tackles, just stuff the Chiefs haven't done, you know. And the Chiefs, if the last time they lost was against Tennessee, November 10th, I think, of 2019. So like we had almost we it almost been a year since the Chiefs lost. You know, so like it was gonna happen. You know, it sucks it was against the Raiders, but um, you know, I think, some of the Chiefs' problems was they were believing their own hype. They were reading their own newspaper clippings, and kind of thought they were unbeatable, and then they got beat by their biggest rival. And so, I think the Chiefs need to dial it back in. They need to, go get back to the basics and, come out swinging this Monday. So,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, the
I
biggest thing
mean,
I gotta give credit to also, I think the Raiders for playing a 4 quarter game,
yes.
because it kind of
Hmm.
looked there kind of close to the end, like with some late touchdowns by the Chiefs, like they were kind of rallying once again, like we were gonna see some
Yeah.
Mahomes magics, but they kept it under check. And I feel like it's
Yeah.
been building a couple of weeks to this loss. Like, we and some people are, I think it has to do maybe a little bit with Pat's time in the back, but I think it also has to do with a crying baby in the background. But I think it also has to do with, with it's weird because sometimes I just feel like the play calling is just like we just want to take shots when
Yeah.
sometimes we just need to play the 5 to 10 yard game and try to get the speed in that
Hmm.
area.
Hmm.
And so I think it's just kind of rework it, refresh it, get ready for Buffalo on Monday because they,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, they've got a good offense and a good defense. I mean, they're pretty balanced,
Yeah.
and they're gonna kind of be given what they've been showing us here lately. A 4 quarter game, and so that was my biggest takeaway from Oakland. Is they unlike the Chargers and some other close games, they took them to 4 quarters, and so
Yeah.
yeah, and it's uncommon mistakes that the Chiefs defense was making, especially some of the players in the secondary. I don't think
Yeah.
Matthew had a great game.
Hmm.
Against Las Vegas, which is weird,
Yeah.
still weird to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I think for some reason, I think we also forget last year they were kind of having some same kind of troubles during this part of the season as well. It's like as soon as they get out of
Yes.
September, it's kind of like, oh, let's fire Andy Reid in October, and like let's love him again in November. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, this has kind of been a little bit of the pattern, and so
Mm.
I just think sometimes they just need to especially if they can't get a run game going. I think early on in the first couple of weeks you saw where they could get their run game going. That's important. It can't just be
Yeah.
Mahomes throwing it 40 times every Sunday,
Yeah.
so or over. I don't know how many times he threw it this Sunday, but I know
Oh
it's
man.
the run game for the Chiefs have just not been there the last couple of weeks, so they need to figure out how to get that week one run game back,
Mm.
and give some more opportunities for Pat to have some help with the run game. But also
Yeah.
you got too, but be, and I know that Andy likes to be creative, but figure out how can you get Tyreek and Travis more involved a little bit, especially Tyreek
Mm.
Hill. I just don't think think about last season. I just don't think he's as involved as he was, and I know that he's being double covered, even triple covered at times. But you
Yeah.
just find smaller ways to get him going. I mean, even if get
Mm.
him on a jet sweep that loses a couple of yards, like get him going, like and because
Yeah, I would
in the
agree.
long run, when you get to the fourth, and Tyreek's a guy where I feel like the more that you give him, even if it is lost, like he's had some drops and things, but when you get him kind of more comfortable and you give him these little things, he'll make up for them big in the second half. So I get him going a little bit more. I just and that's what the Titans did against the Bills. I mean, it was their run game. I mean, Derrick Henry, like you
Hmm.
had that post. I mean, Derrick Henry made Josh Norman look like he was a middle schooler tackling him. I mean,
Yeah,
so I mean,
just that stiff arm
yeah,
though, man. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So I mean, so they've got to get, and I think Hilaire's special enough to where they can start getting that, and maybe they get some more power. I know that you talked about them possibly that Le'Veon is a possibility for the Chiefs at this point. Maybe he
Yep.
can bring a little bit of power, and just see what they can do about this run game.
Yeah.
And so, Jamie, any other thoughts about the two teams that are now beaten?
No, I'm looking forward to this Monday, man. I'm looking forward to those two teams going at it. I'm because this Monday, and that's a good way to segue into our next topic. You know that's one of my matchups to watch is Chiefs Bills. I think it's going to be interesting to see both teams bounce backs. I'm how after their first losses, how do the Chiefs and the Bills look now? Because a young team that can definitely derail your season early, but um, I'm definitely looking forward to this Monday's matchup of the Chiefs and Bills because they're both I could see them playing again in the playoffs, and so it's going to be a big tell on where each team is after their first loss. Are you going to let that kind of linger with you for a while, or are you guys truly all right? That sucked. Let's move on. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely this Monday's matchup, though.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so here is our favorite segment of the week. No, our best of the and worst of the week. I always like to start with the worst. I don't know why, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah. My worst for the week is the Mississippi State offense. This week against Kentucky, you look at where the talk was of this offense in week one, and now where they're at. And at week two, they only put up 2 points against Kentucky. So they literally didn't score an offensive touchdown. So maybe, I mean, Leach shouldn't have said that he wanted to play the Chiefs or some of these other
Yeah.
NFL teams because they were busy. So that's
Uh
kind of
huh.
ever since he said that, man, it's all gone downhill for Mississippi State. But like, I just don't know.
Hmm.
I just don't see. I guess what's shocking is how can your offense look so explosive from week one and then just they I mean it was ugly. I mean and I watched
Yeah.
parts of that game and it was Castillo on the ground. But I mean, LSU losing to Mizzou. I mean, so is it is LSU really just that bad right now, or like I mean I know that that's part of it, but I mean 2 points. I mean that
Yeah.
you going from records, NCAA records, to 2 points just a few weeks later. And Joe
Yeah.
Costello saying, he's maybe the Heisman. He may be one of the top quarterbacks from week one to where we're like, oh man, like that's ugly. like it, I mean, it
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was, and Kentucky does have a good defense, but they just shut them down. And
Hmm.
I really like what Stoops is. I'm trying to remember his first. I think it's Mark Stoops. It's his
Mm.
brother who's coaching for Kentucky. Has really been doing a great job of getting Kentucky like super competitive as a football team. And so,
Yeah.
but I mean, they really had a game defensively against Mississippi State, where when I was looking at it, I was like, man, I just think they've got too much. Like, literally, when I thought about the matchup, I was like, I think Mississippi State's going to get their offense going again. It's just going to be a little bit too much for Kentucky, but man,
Yeah.
Kentucky was they were flying. I mean, they were
Mm.
team defense getting after it. And so I know that played a part of it as well. But man, just yeah, the final score was 24-2, and
Yeah.
so like I, and Costello had 232 passing yards, and I think he had like maybe two or three interceptions. So uh, it's
Yeah.
just crazy to me to just see like so part of it, should I just say should my worst, when I could have said it, the worst once again was LSU's defense, or is it Mississippi State's offense? So like
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
still gonna say Mississippi State's offense because that's crazy. Like I still can't because they were throwing it all over the place against LSU, and then the
Hmm.
next 2 weeks they just like, nope, we're just we can barely get a 5 yard pass, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go three and out or throw an interception. And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what was the Kentucky game. So that was my worst of the week. What was yours, sir?
Man, I think you know what my worst of the week was. Miami Clemson. All right. That that was a prime example of a team that did not need to be ranked 7th in the nation, and a team that was not deserving to be on the field with the number 1 team in college football. All right. Um the Miami looked okay at the start. They stopped Clemson on made Clemson go out on 3 and out. But then penalties, and more penalties. Miami really shot themselves in the foot, and then before you knew it, Clemson was rolling on all cylinders and was dominating the game. It was not a competition. By half, by halftime, the game was over. It completely dismantled them. Everything that Miami had built leading up to that looked like child's play. It did not look like a team that was deserving of where they were. I was, I remember back in, the early 2000s, those Miami teams that just completely dismantled people in every aspect of the game, completely dismantled them. And so for this year looked like those years. Like this it was looking like the all right, this is that Miami team that I remember. And then we roll into Death Valley, and the Clemson Tigers remind us that nah, the U ain't back. I think the Miami, has a chance of playing them again in the ACC championship. Probably the same outcome, but so I think Miami is looking good. I hope King stays after this year. I wouldn't. A lot of people say that he's the third best quarterback in the draft, so I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't blame him if he left. But this is a young team. This is a really young team, and I think they're going to get better. But Clemson definitely is the best, and Miami was not ready for that, and so that was my worst of last
Yeah.
weekend.
Well, and here's the deal. And the parts of the game, it just made me laugh because like I think what they're trying to do is get that classic Miami swag back. And I know that your past alums are wanting to see that too. And I know that they come in and get these young players all hyped up thinking about what Miami used to be and things like that.
Mm,
But the issue is what I saw was just undisciplined. Like you just, I
yeah.
mean, you see, I've never seen Trevor Lawrence like riled up, like playing a little angry, and
Yeah.
and it sometimes he just was able, he made him pay for it, he proved he
Mm,
like stepped up and proved who he was, and they were,
yeah.
I felt like they were going after the wrong guy for that. So, but I just
Mm,
I think you can't, for Miami. You got to do your business better, for sure. You've
mm,
got to, because I mean they were, I mean, in it at half. I mean 20 in some regards. At 21-10, having a fresh start going into the third quarter, seeing what they're able to do. I think they've got talent and athletes to keep building on with this program, but
mm,
I don't think you can, be so undisciplined if you can't back it up. That's the
yeah.
thing about Miami of old was they could do all they wanted because they backed it up. Those guys like Clinton
Yeah.
Portis and Eric Reed and some other Ray Lewis,
Mm,
they back it up.
mm,
The players that you got
yeah.
now, you can't, they may be wearing a chain and jewelry for offense, like, but you can't back up the undisciplined play that they had on some of the stuff that I had. Like it was just unnecessary for some, and it killed him in the end, and so
Yep.
and I understand what Miami wants to be, but but the weird thing, or not the weird thing, but what also happened in the past was, you know, they were able to do business at this, like let their talk and whatever, but they were still able to do business, you know. And they
Yeah.
were, I mean, they were the best, and then they had to prove
Mm,
why they were. And
yeah.
like you were saying, like that culture is not there yet, and I think they've
Yeah.
got to get, because Clemson's SEC caliber type players, type size. Miami's got a
Mm-hmm.
couple pieces like that, but it really kind of shows you, what I saw, with two players, to me, kind of looking SEC caliber on defense. With Clemson, you've got a front seven that could compete against, defenses that you see in the SEC. Not right now. I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening with defenses in the SEC, but size and talent wise, you know, um, in the past, yeah. So that's a whole, what is happening with SEC defense is a whole nother conversation within itself. But yeah, I think we always, me and you are the same thing. I think we can find like our worst, but thinking about like what is my best for this week. I got to go back to LeBron. I think as much as I like, sometimes don't. I'm like he's okay and things, but he's legendary. I mean, he's
Yeah.
like, and it's amazing that within our lifetimes that we're arguing about seeing the best NBA players of all time. I mean, 90s, Michael, and people are talking about LeBron in the same regard, and so
Yeah.
it is amazing to see that he's gone to three different franchises and gotten them championships. I'd have to go back to see, at his level of doing that. I think he's the first to have ever done that. And so
Mm,
just giving all the LeBron credit for taking an organization that looked like had no direction at all,
mm,
and then lead them to an NBA Finals and a championship. So I give all that greatness to LeBron and all his respect, and I unfortunately I don't think there's anything that he can do for me at least. I know for a lot of people have different opinions, but for me at least, to be like, is he greater than Michael? And I just like, man, we'll never have another Michael Jordan. Like they're
no.
like like there's so many reasons why I say that, not only on the court but off the court.
Yeah.
They're like, and I thought about that this week. Like, you could literally go around the world, anywhere around the world, and he is the first athlete, in my opinion. Maybe Muhammad Ali is maybe the close second, to where you can go all over the world and say the words Michael Jordan and people know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And just just so many other things. But and that's not any knock against LeBron. There will never be another Michael Jordan.
No.
And just in all sense of the word. And but he's up there. I mean, and just, yeah, just a lot of greatness, and it's amazing to see what it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible to see how LeBron can take really less than average guys and propel them to an NBA Finals. And so,
Yeah.
best player right now, definitely in the league. All the credit to LeBron James. So that was
Yeah.
my best of the week.
Yeah. I would agree with that. But my best thing I saw, I hate both these teams with a fiery passion, mainly because of where I'm at. We're in Big 12 country here. The SEC kind of leaks up, but I would say for the most part, Missouri is Big 12 country. So, but that Texas Oklahoma game last Saturday, four overtimes, man. I was at the edge of my seat watching this one because it's just I love college football overtime.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I don't care who the teams are playing.
yeah,
If I see that a college football game is in overtime, I'm watching the game.
yeah.
It's just so
It's the
fun.
best.
And I
It's
wish
the
the NFL
best.
would do
It's
something
the
like
best
that.
overtime in any sport.
Yes,
Like, I
agree.
don't know if that. I
110.
don't think that should be controversial, but it is the best. Like, there's nothing that comes close
Yeah.
to it. I mean, the only and let you get back to your point. The only thing that comes close to it is when you see shootouts, maybe. But even
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
shootouts, are, in my opinion, are a little. I mean, they're still intense, but, like, I mean, it's just it's like the whole team, though. Like in college, it's the whole.
Yeah.
It's not an individual who's losing you the game, or like having a moment. It is the whole team on the field.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, go back to your point. But yes,
Um I liked both teams in this were just deserving of this win. Ellinger, I want the Chiefs to draft Ellinger next year. Obviously he's not better than Mahomes, but just having someone like that, for whatever reason, I was getting Taysom Hill, um, Tatum Hill, the quarterback for the Saints. I was getting like vibes from Ellinger that reminded me of him, and I think the Chiefs could use him in the offense next year. And then Spencer Radler, man, he's a freshman, and he's stepped up and he had a good game. And just everything that the you know the Sooners would do something, and then Texas would answer, and then Texas would do something, and then the Sooners would answer, and it was just back and forth, just classic, great college football game. Can't say anything bad about it. If you guys didn't watch it, try to find a way to watch it. It was great. Um, I definitely thought about watching it again just to be able to watch it again.
yeah,
Um, it was so much fun, just fun game to watch. Hopefully we'll see more that are just like that good um, later in the season. But a game that ended 53-45, man, that's just great. It's a high scoring game, obviously, but it's just a good game. So if you didn't get to watch it. But yeah, that was the best thing I saw last weekend.
awesome. So real quick, just some upcoming games that we are look forward to. Starting off in the NFL, real quick. Yeah, so we've already mentioned it, Bills and Chiefs. Definitely want to be
Mm-hmm.
looking at that game. Uh, I, uh, it's hard for me never not to pick the Chiefs, so I like the Chiefs in that game. Uh,
Mm.
Jamie is probably gonna once again. There's two more that I'm seeing that I'm interested in, but hey, I'm gonna say it. I'm interested in seeing seeing like how for real these Browns are and how for real these Steelers are. You've got 4-1 Browns going against the 4-0 Steelers. So you've got
Mm.
battle in the AFC North. And so I really be interested just to see where these two teams are at, especially my Steelers. Would hate to see them losing against the Browns, but just want to see,
Oh my gosh.
um, yeah, amazing performance from Chase Claypool, seeing him develop even
Mm.
more and more. And so very interested in that matchup. And then also we've got Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady facing off with the Packers
Mm-hmm.
and the Buccaneers. I think that's another huge test, especially for the Buccaneers with some of their injuries that they have. And then just to
Mm-hmm.
really test, this great defense that they have for Tampa Bay against the firepower of Aaron Rodgers. Jamie, any NFL matchups that we missed or anything that you're looking at?
Um, as I go through the schedule, yeah, mine is definitely the Chiefs and the Bills. Um, I and Packers Buccaneers. But as for I don't really see any in the NFL that are like really catching my eye this week. But one in college football that I'm definitely interested in is Alabama number let's see number 2 Alabama versus number 3 Georgia. It's gonna be 7 p.m. Central Time on CBS. I think that's definitely gonna be a must watch game. You got two top five teams going at it in the SEC. And Alabama's kind of look a little shaky last couple. They're definitely last weekend. So, but I'll be interested to see where Georgia's at because they haven't been playing perfect football either. So, I think that'll be a good game for both of them. But yeah, I mean that's all I got.
Yeah, and I think the
Um,
biggest thing in that game we'll see Georgia. I think it's pretty much a unanimous right now having the best defense, and then
mhm.
Alabama. I think I would argue for it at this point. I think it's so weird for me to say, but Alabama looks like they have the best offense in the SEC. So that's weird to
Yeah.
think that that's where Alabama's at. But that's what's going to make this matchup amazing is the top tier offense versus the top tier defense.
Hmm.
I what's also it's going to be. I'm assuming that with Nick Saban testing positive for COVID, he won't be able to be on the sideline. So that's another huge
No.
disadvantage. That's probably the biggest disadvantage for Alabama going into this game. And
Yeah.
so, but we'll also have to see, if there's any other fallout from Coach Saban having COVID. Another SEC matchup. I always will. I mean, Tennessee always intrigues me because they're
Mm-hmm.
always kind of back and forth, but for the most part have played really good football. And they really even had an opportunity against Georgia until they got late into the third quarter and the fourth quarter. But
Mm.
this Tennessee Kentucky game really
Yeah.
and once again I think Kentucky's a really strong team, and so I think that's a great fun game. Definitely want to be watching. You know, I think I want to, we got North Carolina and Florida State. Seeing North Carolina can continue, see what they're all about this year. Yeah, and so, but I think, like you said, the biggest matchup is obviously especially for this weekend. This weekend it's kind of low, beside, in my opinion, besides Tennessee,
Yeah,
Kentucky, and Georgia and Alabama.
yeah,
I think those are your two best college football games this week. And so, I, yeah, this is a tough matchup for Alabama. Like I said, the toughest aspect to me for it being is not having Nick Saban there. So, or
yeah.
assumingly that he
I would
won't be
agree.
there for sure. And so, that's about it for our show today. And so we'll have all of our
Yes,
reactions to what we have talked about. We'll see what the Chiefs and Bills, see what kind of bounce back there is for both teams. And then just seeing the ever changing world of sports, seeing how we can keep moving forward in the season, looking to the NBA to see what teams are making moves, all that in the next coming week. So we will still have a ton to talk about. So, anyways, you all
yes.
have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will talk to you guys next week.
See ya.